Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of my podcast, Construction Tech-Tics, where I'm inviting amazing women doing wonders with construction technology. I'm your host, Tarika Jain, co founder and head of business at Encircle Tech. And today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by a dynamic leader who's creating impact in the construction industry with her out of box ideas and creativity. Welcome, Doreen Silvaso. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you
Uh,
so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Doreen is the head of brand and communications for North Europe at Hilti Great Britain. Her passion for empowering women and fostering equality has been a driving force behind her support for women in construction tech community. So, for my audience, Women in Construction Tech Community is a global initiative focused on creating opportunities and building relationships for innovative women in construction tech. It was started in the US. And Doreen is one of the first few members to join. I am assuming third member, right?
Fourth, but yes.
Fourth member to join the community and drive this women in construction tech community globally. Yeah, and her dedication to this mission and this vision even inspired me to launch the UK chapter. So thanks to Doreen, I'm trying to lead the chapter in the UK and growing this community in a bigger way in the UK. So this is all because of Doreen. Doreen, such a pleasure to have you with us today. And I don't want to steal the thunder, steal the show. So without further ado, let me dive into your story. I am sure my listeners are really interested to know, what kind of work that you are doing in construction tech, how your creativity is influencing construction tech community. I saw your journey. I've seen your journey. I know that from a dynamic and competitive beverage industry, you have moved into construction technology. It's such a different domain. So what attracted to you to this field, and what's your story? Maybe let's start with you.
Yeah, so you probably looked at my LinkedIn and realized I have about 15 years in adult beverages. So I started off as the first female in sales at Heineken USA back forever ago, and so have mostly been in roles that women aren't historically in companies that are highly male based. Not sure how that started. I just kind of had a love for beer and was super geeky and in the right place at the right time. And it's an interesting thing. Even part of my interview process, there was an older gentleman who was interviewing me, kind of very old school, and had asked me, and I'm 21, and he asked me if I could even pick up a case of beer. And so I flinched on the couch. My soon to be boss could feel me flinch and didn't know what was going to happen next. And my response at that point was I was a power lifter, and so I was super strong and young and had no fear. And my response was I could probably pick up more cases of beer than you can. And I was like, uh-oh, I might not get hired. Um, I'm assuming he didn't like it, but the guy that was sitting next to me, who would be my boss, did. So that started a 15-year career with Heineken, which, there's always challenges in mail-based businesses, right? And so there's that piece. And then I moved into consumer packaged goods and wine, and eventually ended up in construction by accident, um, as I think some of us do. I'm historically a marketing and sales background, and I got invited on LinkedIn to a women in male-based businesses event, and they flew me to Texas, and we did roundtables. And so there were roundtables with other women in multi different industries, and so really fascinating. They did panels, and that night I got surrounded. I don't even know if I should say this on camera, but I got surrounded by people in red shirts, and I thought it was some sort of weird cult. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. And so the next day became the sales pitch. I felt really stupid that I didn't know that this was what was happening. And then by the end of the day, too, after the sales pitch, the HR director came up to me and and said, we really like you. Everybody really likes you. We'd love to find a job for you. And so for me, I was like, I don't know anything about construction. It's not my industry. It's nothing that I ever thought about. And I don't think so. So they kept sending me jobs. They kept talking to me. And eventually something interesting came through that I could craft for myself. And now 8 years later, one more country new. And I've been at Hilti about 8 years now. And this is my third role with them. So now I'm the head of brand and communications for all of Northern Europe.
That's amazing. Brand and communication in construction technology, in a construction, leader is such a unique space to navigate, Doreen. I mean, I'm sure our listeners really want to know more about your experience in construction technology. So it's been 8 years, so you have
Mhm.
seen construction and technology merging. I'm sure
Yeah.
8 years back it was construction. Now we say construction and technology. It's one term. You can't live without technology in construction. So we would love
For
to hear
sure.
your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective in terms of kind of how it's changed, is that what you're asking?
But yeah, I mean, what do you see, technology, which kind of technology you see coming in construction? Construction, everyone knows it's a slow industry, not like beverages, it's
Yeah, yeah,
been
way
it's been
behind. Like
steady.
we're 20 years, 30 years behind right now.
Yeah, but still, I see last 5, 10 years have seen some, light at the end of the
Yeah,
tunnel. We still see, technology growing on us in construction people. People talk about it, consume it every day. So, what kind of
yeah.
technological terms you are hearing and promoting as a marketeer and brand and communication lead?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you think about how much COVID changed a lot of things, right? And so I hate to say without that, we wouldn't be as far as we are today, but without that, we wouldn't be as far as we are today. Because you think about the aging population in construction is starting to leave the workforce, but they were the ones that were not as, and I'm sweeping generalization here, but not as tech savvy. And so they were forced to use computers during that time. They were forced to use QR codes during that time. Even if they wanted to get food at anywhere, they had to use a QR code because you couldn't touch anything. And so those things have made life a little bit easier for us to transition into that space. But then you think about AI and machine learning, now that's predicting a large amounts of data, bringing that together and giving us responses to how things are working and making things a lot faster. It's looking at timelines, it's looking at risk and safety. So those things are huge now. Like even thinking about sustainability and green build materials, energy efficiency, like reducing any sort of impact in the environment. You can look at drones, like that's a whole nother space of like inspecting sites and monitoring safety, like efficiency, being able to go into places that maybe not as safe for humans to do, and getting rid of that thought process around having to think about who goes in there, how do they do it, and what their risk is. Now we can just send a drone in there. It can take pictures of that, and then we can share those pictures, right? So that efficiency is amazing. And then there's always the other things like BIM and project management tools, 3D printing, virtual reality, augmented reality. And so those are just a few of the things that are out there that are changing not just construction, but the world as a whole.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's sad that COVID happened, but it's fascinating how technologies transform construction into more efficient, more safer and greener industry. The shift is helping to meet the growing demand for urbanization, infrastructure, and especially housing in, more sustainable and
Yeah.
cost-effective way. We see now we talk about AI, green buildings, drone
Yeah.
technology. They are really
Just
transforming the
concrete in
way.
general, right?
Yeah.
Like changing the concrete, going more towards wood. All of those things have changed
Yeah.
just in a small space. And then reusing things. I mean, construction is the worst at, I hate to say this out loud, but the worst at reusing materials, right? It's like looking at what we have left. How do we move that into another project? What does that look like? How are we saving money there?
Yeah. I mean, so people are talking about these trends, and this has grown in last 8 to 10 years, and especially after COVID.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know, what trends are influencing your approach in branding and marketing strategies
Yeah,
from market.
so I'm mostly from a traditional marketing background where in construction you don't see a whole lot of it. There's not that advancement in the marketing space. I
Mhm,
think companies are starting to come around to it, but even in the marketing space, we're, light years away. I mean, some other tool companies are more commercial customers, so like DIY, where we're more construction site. So we're a little bit further behind in talking to our customers as a whole, but like the things that I use is like this AI in general for content creation, right? So if we have less people to do things, I use that as a supplemental to be able to take large things of data and go, hey, what do you think about? Give me 5 ideas, and then use those ideas to be able to build content without having to do a lot of the heavy lifting when we don't have the people.
mhm,
And then this visual storytelling. So you think about the drones that you add onto site, using those things to be able to use those on our social media. It's crafting more targeted messaging. So looking at who our people are and what that persona is and going, okay, what are the main things for this persona that I can talk about? AI tools again. And then kind of augmented reality, virtual tours, bringing people into spaces that they previously couldn't get into. And so that whole piece of it is fascinating to me, and I love it, and I get super geeky there. And then partnerships and collaborations, right? So looking at companies that maybe weren't even around and thinking about how we can do that, like our Hilti Ventures looks at a lot of startups and thinks about how do we look at this in the future and how do we partner with them and eventually bring them into our portfolios. And so those things have been happening for us for, I think, even 10 years. It might even be more. Antonia can tell you more about that, but we have a whole aspect of our company that's part of that, that's a little bit less out there and less published to people. And then thought leadership in general, like looking at things and building blogs and webinars and case studies from a perspective of what we care about and what our customer cares about at the same time. So those are kind of just a few of them. There's tons more, but like those are the main ones that I use to survive on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's incredible. Your ability to break down this complex construction industry and technology into simple, compelling messages is incredible. I recently delivered a tech talk at Autodesk University, and it was a
Yeah.
technical topic. So it was how we are using technology, web technology, to deliver asset management in this latest
Hmm.
era, modern era. And I was very technical about my entire conversation because it's the technical topic. But
Yeah.
there was a team that helped me to convert this into a very compelling story and bringing a human touch into it. Really,
Yeah.
coming out with the story, the pain area, and then how we really navigate into that. So I was really touched by the marketing effort that went into it and really translated my entire story, which would have been a technical, boring story, into a very fascinating, compelling story for the audience, and everyone enjoyed my talk. It didn't turn out to be a tech talk, rather it
Good.
turned out to be a theater talk, a tech,
Are you an engineer?
I am an engineer, but
Oh, okay.
and I don't know how to do marketing
And I
largely.
don't know how to speak engineer. So like this is when I talk to engineers and they come at me like you did, right? Probably to somebody. I'm like, okay, I understand what you're trying to achieve, but I don't understand what you're saying. And can I make this, I hate to say this, more human? Because that's not the kind of conversation that you have when you're in front of the customer, unless that customer is a technical person, right? And so, yeah, I like the fact that you said that and know who you are. And like, so I'm the other side of you in that space.
Yeah. Being more human and giving a human touch to the story
Yeah.
is sometimes we technical, you know, uh, you know, technical teams and people, engineer, they forget, and
Yeah, it's
that's what
black and
people
white.
want to hear. Yeah.
I'm all gray.
And Doreen, you recently moved to UK. You have always been in the US.
Yep.
So I hope the transition has been smooth for you, but would love to hear what kind of unique challenges and opportunities you noticed in Northern Europe market
Mhm.
compared to other regions you have worked in. Any surprises,
Yeah, I
any.
mean, if we're talking construction in general, a few things that are, that are the same but a little bit different. Labor shortage, as we all know, is like a huge thing for construction right now. In the US, it's mostly about the aging workforce, right? So it's the 50 and above, mostly white male based, that are aging out. And
Mhm,
so there's not a lot of people coming behind them that are in the actual trade and doing the trade work. There's engineers, there's BIM people, there's tech people, but there's not the actual workers. And
mhm,
so that's something, when I look at the UK, we still have that problem. But as I realize it, it's mostly more of a Brexit issue. So the people that were over here were over here on visas or for work things, and Brexit has changed a lot of that from what I can understand. We still have a skills shortage. And so neither place have we figured out yet how to uh, get over that hurdle, except for the fact that women and people of color, right? And so those are the two spaces that we see more and more adapting into the industry, which is great. It's just, how do we get them to a point that um, brings them better into it more comfortably, because right now it's still kind of like a rodeo out there, right? It's
mhm.
not a safe space for everybody. I hate to say that, right? But that's part of it. And then technology integration, as you know, is always a challenge in this industry. US feels slow to adapt, although, a lot of the solutions that I see that are so savvy are coming out of the US, not US only, but I lived in San Francisco and I saw things like driverless cars 10 years ago, like that sort of thing. So I think I was just in a space that showed it to me more.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas in the UK, I realized that a lot of the adoption of that is coming from the government agencies, which I find to be fascinating because they're doing a lot of interesting things. And I've been to a bunch of different conferences and talks around, or day things that are talking about it from the government perspective of how they're changing that. And I love that they're doing that. So those are two of the main things that I see coming out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also recently moved to the UK last year, and I see a lot of focus on health and safety,
Yep,
from government, building regulations and sustainability initiatives that government is taking.
yep.
And that's very strong on, government radar, for sure. But at the same time, like you said, there is a labor shortage. At the same time, there is a very high demand and need for housing and
Yeah.
urbanization.
Well,
And
and you talking sustainability too. Sorry for cutting you off. I cover the Nordics, and so Sweden,
Mhm.
Denmark, Finland. And so when I look at the UK from a sustainability standpoint, we are nowhere compared to the Nordics, right? So their regulations are much tougher. They're much more advanced than we are. So actually, we take a lot of what they're doing up there and tailor it to our market because they're smarter, faster in it.
Wow, yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a new thing that I mean that's a very good eye opener for me, because these countries bear harsh winters, so
Right?
sustainability, comes to them, much more. They can see on them, and they really
Mhm.
work for it to become more, viable.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
yeah, and I believe automation has an important role to play in all these things, whether
Mhm.
it comes to labor shortage, demand for housing, sustainability, safety. So, I see
Now, is
more and more.
safety here government regulated? I'm assuming it's government regulated here.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes, yes. I mean, lot of safety regulations. I see when you say things are slow here, I think it is more because, we see safety first, and then, we think of, anything later. So that's what I believe.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I noticed you can't get on sites here as easily as you can in the US, which is
Yes.
a positive and a negative, right? So how do we help you if we can't get on site? But if we can't get on site, then we don't become a security risk. So there's like two different sides of that story.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I like it either way.
Yeah, yeah, but now let me take you to another interesting
Sure.
conversation, Doreen, which is for me, which is very self-motivating, is the community that you have grown, this wonderful community of women in construction tech that you have grown, and you are one of the first few to join this. I really want to understand what inspired you to, get involved in this in early days, and why someone should join women in construction tech community that we all are trying to grow.
Yeah, I mean, so I work at Hilti, and one of the founders, Antonia, works at Hilti, and she lived in San Francisco, and she and I have been, working together for 8 years, right? So I've seen her grow into her role. She was in a sales role before she moved into the Hilti Ventures, and then she started to grow this. And I ran our women's group in
Mhm.
Hilti North America, and so I did that the first year of COVID, and so we started with a team of 3 or 4 of us, and grew out to 7 people that were not paid for it. It's kind of off the side of the desk internally, and then from there, from 60 people, it became 450 people when I left the
Mhm.
U.S. And it's still growing now to around 600 people that are involved. And so it's thinking about women in construction and how do we help you navigate being a woman in construction and all the things that come with that. And so Antonia had mentioned she was starting this project, and what did I think? And what can she do differently, and what am I doing for platforms? And she likes kind of the fact that we were doing this and that. And so we just ended up having a conversation. And so it was Antonia and Julietta that had started it, and they'll talk more as you or maybe it'll pre-course this one, but um, they really were the masterminds around thinking about this, because both of them are in the space and realize that they're the only ones on stage multiple times, right? And that there weren't very many women speakers. And then also, when you were a speaker, there wasn't, it's still that construction space. So it's all that bravado that's out there that is a little bit tough to navigate in the nicest way. Uh, and so I just kind of started to help a little bit and help a little bit. And Romy, I met her right after that, and she came on because she is passionate about this space as well. And then, there were the 4 of us, and there was a San Francisco chapter. There was, I think New York came second, and then Boston after that. And it's just been a small groundswell. We're lean and scrappy, and we're not always doing all the things that we can because we all have full-time jobs. And so and so whatever we're building is just a group of women talking about what the struggles are and how do we help each other and what that looks like, and connecting and sharing. And as London is now building and building and building because women are hearing about it, and then they want to be a part of it. And then I think it's just nice to have a space where you can talk about your frustrations without being judged or having some dude try to fix it for you, right? Like, and I and that's
Absolutely.
really I just as women, we just it you got to come into the conversation of, do you want me to just listen to you, or do you want me to come up with solutions for you? Do you want me to help you? Like, what do you need? And oftentimes as women, we just want somebody to hear us speak.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's such a great point, Doreen. I mean, it really shows how, vital community and support are for, growth. Construction technologies, really technical, highly technical, and male-dominated, field from many decades. So, joining or, having this kind of community, I felt is not just about networking. It's a fantastic opportunity to share ideas and amplify our voices together. It's a safe place. It's creating the
Yeah, it's like being a mom though too, right? And like, it's coming back into work. What happens if I have a baby? What do I do if I'm breastfeeding? Like, how do I have these conversations? Some guy said something nasty to me on site. Like, what does that feel like? What do you do about it? How are you dealing with it? Like, these are things people don't talk about it in your workplace because you're mostly got dudes, right? Like, I am going through menopause and this is what I'm thinking. Are you feeling crazy too? Right? Like, just being able to have an open conversation about that is just something fascinating about it, right? Like, it's a good thing. It's like having friends that you can vent to.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm very proud and happy that, I am part of creating that kind of inclusive space. It
Yep.
was After doing this, I felt it was so important to do so. And when we do meetups, and when we, talk in this space, I see that, women feel very confident. Women feel, sometimes they come with just venting out, but they come out of this discussion with a lot of solutions.
Mhm.
I feel that this space has also given women new ideas, what kind of technology they should upskill themselves. And some women have got funding. So within this space, we have founders and co-founders with new
Mhm.
ideas, bright, innovative solutions. But this community has helped them get funding. This community
Yeah.
has sometimes helped them get co-founders,
Mhm.
good, good, good people to join, good
Yep.
women to join. So I think
But it
this
even
this
helps
co-
introverts, right? Like, you can go to that and, like, I don't like going to meetings of people I don't know in a social situation, and like, just it's just not my space. Like, I'll be quiet and I'll sit off to the side, or I'll be social but it's not really me. And so I think it does help, especially if you're talking engineer space, right? Like, even the first meeting that I went to that was at London Build, I realized that, there are different personalities in the room, and some of them are awkward, right? Like, just normal. And so, like, giving them the opportunity to be able to just sit on the side and listen until they're ready is also a cool thing, right? It doesn't mean that they're not part of it, just means that they're figuring out where they're comfortable. And I like the fact that we're inclusive in that way too.
Yeah. I mean, it really does help. It is really helping women in many perspective. In our group, we always give a shout out for women who are, achieving things. So sometimes in your own environment, which is more male dominated, you
Yeah.
don't feel appreciated. So sometimes you need a space where you get appreciation.
Hmm.
It gives you a kick. It gives
Yeah.
you enough boost to make the next leap in your life.
Yeah. Great
So
job. Like, somebody's listening to you, somebody hears you, somebody appreciates you. And no matter what they say, you're doing amazing. Simple,
yeah, yes,
but
yes.
so impactful.
So thanks for really bringing this community, initiating this
Look,
wonderful.
I'm not in charge of any of this. I didn't initiate any of this. I'm never taking that limelight from Antonia or Juliet, right? So I'm just part of the team. And
Mhm,
for me, my ethos is, let's help as many women up the ladder as possible. It's not one rung, it's a wide rung,
mhm,
right? Like,
yeah.
if you're ahead of the people, bring them up with you. If you
Mhm,
can help. If you can sponsor or mentor or any of those things, we're
mhm,
responsible now, right? We're the
mhm.
people that are responsible for whoever helped us, male or female,
Yeah.
helped us to that point. Now, if we're at this point, we need to help everybody up behind us. And it doesn't have to just be women. I mentor a lot of people. And even since my 20s, I've been that go-to person that people will be like, hey, how did you navigate this? What does that look like? Help me. And
Mhm,
so I I think it's important, and you need to figure out who those people are in your community. And hopefully it's us. And if it's not us, it's somebody else that you can use that can help you in a different direction.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah. And we had a podcast episode with Antonio and Julieta where we
Oh,
heard
good.
how she created I mean they both created this community and I mean about the vision and mission about this community. So that really helped our audience
Good.
and it's helping to grow this community. A lot many women are now joining this community and is becoming bigger and bigger and because of your marketing in
We all play a part. It's not me. It's all of us, right? Like I'm never gonna let you make me that person. I
you know
appreciate it, but it's not me.
so you're not just marketing construction technology with your company. You're helping us change the perception of women's role in this field.
We all are.
And yeah, and your work is making an incredible impact both inside and outside the company. So, and I'm really proud of you,
Thank
what you
you.
are doing.
And I'm proud
Uh,
of you for taking on this London piece and like all the emails I send you relentlessly of adding people in that I think can be interesting. So you're
yes.
taking on a big part too, girl.
Thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
And finally, for anyone thinking about diving into marketing in construction or construction technology industry,
Don't do it.
market marketing is tough, I used to say technology and
Yeah,
people who are bringing innovation in technology stuff, but feels like, after delivering a talk, I felt like, marketing is tough, what's
I
the
would
best
say
way?
there's a couple things there, right? So
Mhm,
I like marketing people in the startup space, right? After you get a couple of rounds of funding,
mhm,
and you can build it from the ground up. I think that's fantastic because then you can pass it off to somebody else to take it
mhm,
on the next rung, right? That's where I love to do is these smaller companies that haven't figured it out yet and being able to create that job on your own. But somebody that's younger, I think it's a good space to learn because you become that everything, right? You do your social media, you do paid marketing, you do internet, you do website, you do search, Hilti Online, like you're that everything, right? And so it's you learn by trial and error. And it's kind of a cool spot to be in, but it's also not stable in this industry in terms of jobs. So, you could not get funding and not have a job in 2 days, but if you're young enough, you're scrappy enough, you're still going to get a job, right? So I would say, there's two different pieces of it. If you're older, you want more security. If you're younger, you can be scrappy and just take swings at things. And so I say swing away. Um, but also, if you want to, tradition is not the industry to play in, because we don't do it as well yet, right? But you also might have opportunities to do things that other people aren't, right? Like I don't see a lot of people on TikTok in the space unless you're an influencer. And so I find that people are afraid of TikTok as a corporate company, but as a tech company, I would say roll with it and see how you be disruptive, right? So there's goods and bads of each one of those things depending on who owns the company and how open they are to trying new things for young people. And I think that's what we need is a larger amount of young people taking swings at things.
Yeah, yeah, I love that perspective, for younger generation, it's good to get into construction tech startup, because
Mhm.
you get a very good creative free hand to test different marketing strategies, learn,
Yep.
fail or learn fast, so that kind of, environment that you get. So
Yeah,
that's
you learn
really
a lot
good.
more too in like consumer packaged goods. You get the traditional marketing and what it looks like, and then going into tech might be the better move because then you
Yeah.
get your training, then you
Hmm.
get real life examples, and then you take that and then you make your name for yourself, right? And
Yeah.
so if I was going to do it again, that's the way I would do it now. If I was like 20 right now.
Wow. Yeah. And I also like the perspective if you have already gained a lot of experience in this industry, becoming an influencer, meaning sharing your wealth of knowledge in terms of, talks, in terms of content. the content that you create, the stories that you create out of your content is something that can really help you become a good marketeer. People are really looking forward to learn fast. They don't want to spend another decade in doing the same similar mistakes. So rather, if there is an influencer or an advisor who can advise
Mhm.
somebody on what to do and how to do it faster, it's like it's like,
Yeah, I
why
mean,
do reinvent the wheel?
well, if you think about search engines right now, like,
Mm-hmm.
SEO, and when you Google something, the things that
Mm-hmm.
mostly come up now are TikTok, it's Reddit, and YouTube, right? And so those are the three places that people are looking at. And so that's where content's coming from, and that's changed over the past 10 years from being Google to these other platforms that people are just sharing information, right?
Yeah, yeah. So becoming an influencer is definitely
I don't know influencer because there's a culture of fame there that I don't think is good, but I think that there's a way that you could be a thought leader versus an influencer that could help
yeah,
you in those
yeah.
spaces.
Yeah, better word is thought leader. Better word is because the whole idea is to
Yeah,
share your wealth of knowledge
yeah,
with people so that they don't have to spend that much time which you might have spent in over the years in learning and getting the experiences. So good. I
yeah.
mean,
Because when I think influencer, I think like a girl in a bathing suit, like at some place that is annoying, right? So like,
yeah,
I
yeah, true.
like thought leader better.
Thought leader, definitely. So, before I, wrap up, and I would love to hear your advice to our listener. Is there any mantra or piece of wisdom that you would like our listeners to, you like to share for achieving success in this field?
I mean, I think reaching out for help and talking to as many people as you can is always good. Um, Believing in who you are and sticking with that, right? And so oftentimes through my career and I'm not young, I've been called aggressive and negative and these sort of things, right? As a female, you get labeled so many things that men do that are positive or negative as a female. Um, Life is changing and that's evolving, but we're still not far enough. And so I think that work on yourself and getting better and but also believing in yourself when people label you something that you don't have to believe them, right? And so unless you've heard it 10 times, then it shouldn't be something that you let get to you, and you'll find your tribe, right? And so I can swear in construction and I can be myself most often, and whether it's still a struggle, it is, but I don't feel like it's as big of a challenge as other spaces for me to be able to be myself in. And so that's what I like about being here, and that's what keeps me here so far, along with always changing and being advocates in the spaces that matter to me. So I guess to summarize all that blah 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 is just be yourself and find your people.
I really loved your perspective. It's like be yourself. Sometimes, if it is not a, women community, I always tell as a success mantra is listen more than speak. But I realize that, as a woman, we get labeled a lot and we juggle a lot with multiple priorities in life, but at the same time we get labeled a lot. And listening too much sometimes hurt.
Oh yeah,
So
because then you're not heard, right? And that's the space that we've been put in. Be that nice little housewife and be quiet, right? So like I don't know if that's the right thing to say to people, but there's a happy medium in between listening and being an advocate for yourself.
yeah, 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 that's the thought I really want to have, stay on that thought. Thank you, Doreen. Thank you. And I'm sure that it's an amazing conversation, one of the best conversations I have had,
Ah,
it's absolute pleasure having you on this podcast. your ability to combine marketing creativity with a deep understanding of this domain is rare. And, that's what I wanted to capture today. And I'm sure my listeners were able to also get that perspective. You have helped bridge the gap between these two worlds, and it's rare to find in construction and construction technology. So, definitely, I would really be happy to see more and more women coming in this domain.
Absolutely.
It's an upcoming thing. Marketing is also going through a overhaul with AI, AI based content, and you mentioned about content marketing and
Mhm.
thought leadership. So I know that there are women like you who are with wealth of experience, and I really want to share that experience with the audience so that the younger generation, the generation which is coming up next, shouldn't be spending so much time in learning and making this industry more innovative.
Yeah, for sure. And feel free to share my LinkedIn and have people connect to me and that sort of thing. I'm always open to talking to people too if anybody needs it.
Perfect. And to our audience, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. And Doreen's enthusiasm for empowering women and fostering inclusion in the construction tech industry is genuinely contagious. It's really exciting to
Cool.
see how she's making strides and impacting the industry with her work. And at Encircle Tech, my company, we share the similar commitment to driving innovation and creative solutions that lead to an inclusive and sustainable future. In our company, Doreen, I always say we have almost one third women population, and I'm really striving to make it 50-50 and have a very
Nice.
inclusive environment for our company. So your insights remind me that all of the power of collaboration and forward thinking in our industry. So and last but not the least, as a lead for Women in Construction Tech UK chapter, I'm continuously inspired by incredible leaders like Doreen who are shaping the industry. And we are always looking to expand our community and welcome more and more women who are eager to make a difference. If you're passionate about creating a equitable space in construction tech industry, we would love you to join us. In this video, at the end, there is a QR code. Please scan that to connect with our vibrant community. And cheers and stay tuned to our next episode. We can't wait to bring more exciting conversations to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.